a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but that beauty.
Don't tell me they're doing that bull crap, man. Okay. I want to say welcome to the Wheels and Hours community group. I am your host, Michael Phelps from the Wheels and Hours. I want to let the Kings introduce themselves.
Michael Barnes.
Raymond Carlisle.
Alrighty. Today we're just going to revisit our topic from last week. We were talking about should black men, should men hold each other accountable in our communities, within our families, and if so, why? Why should we hold each other accountable? Is it important for us to hold each other accountable? How does it affect us when we do hold each other accountable? Does it affect us if we hold each other accountable?
Those subcategories again, those particular scenarios that we were addressing, we just kind of ran out of time.
Yeah. But before we get into our topic, I want to kind of like do some little current events, like certain things that's going on in our world today. I don't know if any of y'all was up on some of the issues that kind of like plague our communities. Just by some of the dynamics. So even though these are entertainers and stuff like that, but they have an impact on a lot of decision making that a lot of our people are making because they think that they want to live their lifestyle. The Tyrese and I guess Envy still at it. I thought that was squashed, but that it's still going on. Envy felt like he was trying to talk to his wife, and Tyrese saying that he helped, God led him to help him save their marriage, and he said he had receipts, so he pulled up receipts and stuff, and saying that Envy was a lie. He's a liar. What do y'all think?
That's a shame that went like that, and even a lot of the stuff that came out as a result of them trying to have the conversation in front of everybody, it's kind of unfortunate. So to just kind of revisit what it was, um, as we know, Tyrese has been on meds and stuff like that for the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of, or as a consequence of him and his wife breaking up over time and then eventually getting a divorce, which, if you've been divorced, you know that a lot of the weight, even though it's broken evenly between the two people feel it. The A lot of the shame and the blame actually falls on the male in America because we're a Christian country by and large. I think it's still like 80 or 90% Christian. Mm-hmm. So according to that doctrine, the man's responsible for the well-being of the marriage in terms of the structure of it and the direction that the marriage goes. And so if the direction of the marriage goes and leads into breakup, then you automatically look at the guy. Mm-hmm. According to what we've been taught anyway. So Tyrese's gripe was that as he reached out to DJ Envy and his wife when they were having their problems, he flipped the coin and said, "Well, how come you didn't reach out to me during my hard time, right?"
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then as a result of this exchange, it made for a really good episode on the Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
But also now, as a result, you get this fallout where oh, I got receipts that you didn't do what you said you did, and you did some things that I didn't like that you said you did, whatever. And the point of controversy really came in when Envy said that, I should box your mouth for some of the things that you said to my wife.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we left off.
Yeah, and he was, and the thing was that Tyree, Solomon said, well, what did he say? He said, well, we don't want to discuss that. So that kind of led him. So by him bringing that subject matter to the table out in public, people wanted to know what was said. So that what made. So there's a lot of phone calls that Tyrese received after the show, saying that he didn't produce no receipts for him to just bring that out like that. And if y'all did, that should have been talked behind the scenes. But since now that y'all brought it out into the public, now everybody wants to know what was said because they want to see who's lying and who's not lying. Mm-hmm. So this is where we get into trouble in our communities. This is what happens a lot. When you throw an accusation out there, especially publicly, you have to address it publicly now. Their beef should have been kept private. It shouldn't have went public in the first place. So therefore, we could have just swept it on the rug, and they could have handled that and then swept it on the rug and went their trolley on their own merry way. But now it became a public spectacle. Now everybody's taking sides. The blogs are picking it up. So guess what? It's going to turn it. It's just a fireball now. It's out of control. And this is the thing we have to think about when we're dealing with our community. Okay, now that was the Tyrese issue. Now I want to talk about the Jeezy and his wife issue. Now, did y'all know about Jeezy and his wife?
I don't know as much. I just know that it's got to a point where it's him filing for divorce from her, which is interesting because the statistics say that 80% of divorce is initiated by women. So
yes,
there had to be something unique happening there for him to, especially this big tough guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think with the issue with Jeezy was when you marry into a different culture, you got to understand the culture. Her whole family moved in to their house. She's Asian, so Asian people, they usually bring their mom, their brothers. They that's the type of culture they have. They have generations on top of generations that live together. So as him being a person that, because he just talked about the traumas he had with his mom trying to kill him and stuff like that. So he was he probably ain't used to that love or that type of connection or that type of unity or that type of family togetherness. So that kind of, and then, so as that being in your home and you got all these people in your home, and they close knit. So I don't know what played a part or how she act, but they said that she had a bad attitude, and she said she started to recognize her attitude, so she wanted to change. But she said when they was talking about changing, then Jeezy, they went on the vacation when he went on public TV and announced that he's the best wife he ever had, but not knowing that he had divorce papers waiting when she got back in the States. So it's just a mess, especially when blogs and stuff get into it. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand. We want to get out the ghetto so bad, but we seem to keep that ghetto in with us everywhere we go. It seems like we just cannot separate ourselves from the ghetto, from that hood mentality. But those were just some of the things I just wanted to talk to before we got into our major subject. Then there was a thing about they are charging Keefy D. Well, he is right now under an investigation for the murder of Tupac. Now the interesting story about that is, and he signed some type of paperwork that they weren't supposed to use against him because he was writing a book and he was speaking on the thing. So, but in the state of Nevada, where he signed the paperwork at, they said that we cannot charge you for anything you say unless someone that was there or seen you implementing you in it, then we can charge you.
Always a caveat.
So him not paying attention or not understanding, comprehending what he's doing, he wouldn't start talking about how Tupac got killed, how he was in the car, how he passed the gun to somebody. So now he's bragging about this, and he's got a podcast talking about it all the time. How he didn't like how he did his nephew. His nephew was a young kid. These grown men jumping on him, and he didn't like that, and this and that. And him and Suge was friends, and this and that, and he couldn't believe that they did that to him. And yeah, I was just like, what an idiot.
Shut up.
I'm like, why would you open your mouth? If it got away with it, you should have just left it alone. But see, that's that karma. That's that thing with God. God is you paying back. You have to pay back. You have to pay back for the blood you took. And that's what's happening. And by looking at that, and I'm sitting back, I said, man, how long many years Pac been dead?
23 years.
Yes.
He should be 50 right now, I think.
Yes. That's just sad that he couldn't. I don't know why people use social media for all they gossip. These are supposed to be men that's supposed to have a street code, and y'all violating the street code, the code of silence, and y'all just talking too much. It's like everybody getting on social media to blast their business. I just don't get it.
It don't make no sense from a fundamental perspective. I mean, if you kill somebody and you kill somebody, shut up. I mean, even if you was in the right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like somebody was assaulting you and you killed him, still shut up. Right, but he was in the wrong anyway. Well, in my opinion, he was in the wrong anyway. And then I know that there's an element out there of like bragging rights for taking certain guys down.
Yeah,
but still, shut up. It just don't matter which way you cut this pie up. Shut up.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was if this plays out to be true, what. Like you said, karma was eating him up on the inside. He wasn't a strong enough vessel to keep that in.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? And he's got health issues, and he's old now. He's going to serve the rest of his life in jail. He'd probably be a marked man in there because a lot of people love Pop.
Oh yeah.
So that's just things that it's just sad just to see that I'm talking about even with our young drill culture where they brag about how they're killing each other and they get on the rap and say exactly how they killed somebody.
it's not a pleasant thing to begin with. Anybody that I've ever conversed with that has bodies, um, it's not a positive conversation. There is either an angry conversation
Yeah,
or is it
resentment. Hmm.
shameful, resentful. They got a lot of regrets.
Hmm. They have to
What is
live with that trauma.
that? Yeah, that's what's so odd about that situation is he kind of like proudly flaunting. What are you doing? So
Well,
it
I
really is a
just,
demon, man.
I just wanted to bring some of those subject matters up before we get back into our topic. Now I want to get back into our topic. We just want to keep up on some of the current events, just to talk about certain things. But okay, now on my topic was, should men hold each other accountable within our family and communities on their actions? If why and why so? Okay, so number one, there was a question I asked the question, when you see them being disrespectful to their parents and elders. Now, when we see our young men, or even men themselves being disrespected to their parents or to the elders, um, how do we embrace that? How do we allow that in our community if we want to change the dynamics of where our community should be or where it should go?
Hmm. When it comes to bringing about change,
Yeah, how do we address those issues when we see that? Because what I mean, because there's a lot of time back in the day, it seemed like they was more hands on. It seemed like today people are not hands on. They seem like they're afraid to say anything.
well, there's a number of reasons. There's a number of reasons for that when it comes to why people are afraid to say something now. Um, but when you think about it, the role models that we had then,
Hmm.
we don't have today.
Yeah,
Back then, we were reminded
yeah,
if you were disrespectful even a little bit, you were instantly reminded
yes.
that you were to be respectful. It just, and every time I think about that, it just takes me back to my uncle, who was king on reminding.
Yeah,
Um, anytime you responded with a huh or
yeah.
or yep, or yeah, you're like what? And you say yes, sir. He said, I thought that's what you said,
Hmm.
and it was a reminder um, that you were out of line. Um, or even if it was overheard that you were being disrespectful to another adult,
Hmm.
and another adult heard it, the
Yeah.
adult the adult that was disrespected didn't really have to, because they trip over each other correcting it.
Yeah.
Both the adults would be on you
Yeah. Yeah.
about being
Hey,
disrespectful.
it's my
So
turn. It's my turn. It's my
The
turn.
yeah,
whole party stops. The
yeah,
music cuts
yeah.
off. What you say?
What? You've
Yeah.
been disrespectful. And so
Yes, sir.
these days it's not like that. These days, um, and I hate to say it, but it starts at the top.
Hmm.
It starts with the adults that are not teaching our young people. And what I mean that they're not teaching our young people, there's still kind of that mentality: do as I say, not as I do.
Hmm.
Okay, well I'm grown, so I can do this, but you don't do it. Well, your best teacher is the best way to teach is not with your mouth, but with your actions.
Hmm.
And these days, there's a whole lot of mouth teaching with no actions to follow.
Yeah.
So the kids, young people, um, feel like, well, shoot, you're not gonna do it, then why should I have to do it?
Hmm.
You doing it, so why can't I do it?
Hmm.
And then sometimes you share too much with young people about your history. Then there's like, well, you did it, so why can't I do it? They miss the point.
Hmm.
Sometimes not every adult understands the importance of leaving some things out when they're sharing history, but then also the lessons that you learn when you're sharing history. But oftentimes you find yourself glorifying your history, and then um, wearing it like a badge of honor. So then your child doesn't get, they're not able to glean the lesson that they should get from the
Hmm.
story that you shared.
Yeah.
You're not sharing the story to glorify those things. You're sharing the story to teach something, and the goal should be for them to learn. But the generations that we live in and what we're experiencing of today, don't teach that way.
Yeah.
They glorify things.
Yeah.
So that's where the kind of, I believe, that's where the potholes in the, so to speak, potholes in the road are.
And to piggyback off of that, you know, what I mean, because I want to put it in a different perspective, because you made a valuable point. Do as you don't, as they say, as you do as I say, not as what I do. But then also, I've seen those who try to live a righteous life, and kids still wanted to take a different path. We do have those type of because I was one of those kids. You know what I mean? We came from strict families. They did a little thing. We didn't have the perfect. Nobody has the perfect family. There's no such thing as perfect family, perfect neighbors, perfect community, because you're gonna see it no matter where you at in your community, within your community, in your neighborhood, within your family. So you're gonna see negativity no matter what. Now, the teachings of that negativity is where I think we got. Sometimes it is like you said, people glorify when they try to teach a message, they try to glorify it versus trying to tell them that, man, that's not, instead of with a pity face or sad outcome, or tell them the outcome that happened to them that really took a lot from them or made them lose a lot. They don't tell it from that side of the story. It seems like when they tell it like it's glitz and glamour, like it's sparkling gold. And that's what happens when people do tell stories about their lifestyle or what happened to them in life. So I do agree with you on a whole 100%. I'm just saying, I'm just want to make sure everybody know that I have seen it from pastors having kids and their kids are bad, out of control. I've seen people who were strict parents that was, go to work, military families that was straight, straight discipline, and kids go bad. So it's just some of the things that we do, because they're going to go out and see it no matter what. So we got to learn to teach them the life of fiction and reality. Sometimes kids living in a fiction and not learning the reality that they can see things on TV, and then they want to implement what's on TV instead versus what is reality. You can shoot a gun, but you're gonna run out of bullets. Your gun is only hold 6 shots, but in the movie, you can shoot forever. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying. I just want to piggyback off of what you're saying.
There is an element of this one that, the rite of passage, and I think probably like a religion like Islam has kind of structured what the primal version of that what used to be. You used to have to send the boy out, or send the child out into the wilderness, and if he comes back, then okay, that's good. He came back with he killed a hog or whatever. But in today's day and time, Islam has kind of structured this rite of passage, or also you got Judaism has with the bar mitzvah is the rite of passage. When do you pass the torch so that I think the unnecessary component in there is the disrespectful part. Like, you got to pass the torch eventually. The older, the more wise should be imputing the knowledge and the wisdom to the children so that they don't make the same mistakes, so that they can advance the culture, advance their tribe, so to speak, further than what we were able to take it. So the disrespect comes because there's no formality, there's no structure in place to tell the child when it is appropriate for them to take the baton and now run their race. A lot of these cases I see is like that, because I end up mentoring them. I end up going into these personal spaces when really all I'm there to do is teach them about money. You know what I mean? So I think that's an element of it. If we can pick a time, or we can, watch what the next generation is doing and go, okay, so he might be 15, but he's exhibiting qualities of a grown man. So let's give him some more. Let's encourage him to go in this direction or that direction. So I think that's a big giant, and I see that with my son's generation too. They're waiting for the baton to be but the generation before them isn't ready to give up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Their relationships, their resources, their forms of well-being, their houses and cars and their money, their knowledge, their wisdom. They're not ready to give it up, so they just sit there in space, in the space. And the older the child gets, the closer they come to inevitably coming into contact with the elder in the situation. So, we got to pick a time. Pass the baton at this time. Identify when the child is showing you that they're ready for more.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I agree with what he said. I mean, what it brings to mind is that, for a long time, the world tells you, or law tells you, whatever, that when you're 16, you get to drive. When you're 18, you get to sign a contract. When you're 19, you can smoke. When you're 21, you can drink. But that's not across the board, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
He dressed he dressed to maturity, and I think that's king. It's when your child is ready. Not every 16-year-old is ready to drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because you're 21 doesn't mean you're ready to drink.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of responsibility that comes along with it.
Yeah.
But some people introduce their children way too early. Yeah. And like even what you kind of touched on, sometimes they introduce them way too late. And it's a fine line. It's a fine balancing act. Meaning that you got to pay real close attention to your child. You got to know your child, knowing your child's ready for that baton.
Yes, sir.
And like you said, sometimes they withhold it from them when they should give it to them.
Yeah.
They've earned that trust. Give it to them.
Yeah.
But then if they burn that trust or haven't earned that trust, don't give it to them. But at the same time, when you don't give it to them, don't just not give it to them, but tell them why you're not giving it to them, so that they understand, so they have something to reach for. Because you don't want to discourage your child by saying, okay, well, I'm just gonna not give it to you at all, and I'm not going to teach you why.
Yeah.
You got to do the teaching on the other side, so it prepares them to receive that. But again, that teaching is imperative or important enough that the parent has to be the one to teach the right way.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't be out here acting a fool, and then you want to tell your child to be responsible.
You outside.
You out here trying to box the neighbor, right?
Yeah.
But then you telling your child, or you disrespect authority. You telling your child to respect authority. Wait a minute, hold up. There's a problem. There's a disconnect. Okay, because there are all kinds of authorities that we must respect, even as adults. But some adults believe that hey, I'm a grown man, I'm a grown woman. Look, you gonna respect me? Well, respect goes both ways. It's not just one way. It's like tennis.
Yeah.
It's like that ball's gonna land on both sides of the net, and the only way you got a game is that the ball keeps going back and forth.
Yeah.
The ball falls dead. Where disrespect enters and respect ends is when you allow the ball to fall dead on your side of the net, and you refuse to take part in writing that thing between you and the other person.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. We got somebody I guess.
Brother Alan McFall with a comment here, and we encourage people to
interact
because we do read them on the air every weekend. So he says part of the distortion in the scenario is that many people claim that if I do X, that then Y would occur, and because they make that linkage, they use that false premise to strong arm men to do something towards someone else simply because someone else wants to put the mantle of accountability at someone else's feet. Because this topic is part of the gender divide between black men and black women. It's argued with simplicity, but it's far more complicated.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you got.
Yes.
It's kind of like there's two parts in there.
Yes.
It's a larger conversation happening, and then there's the subcategories that have their own caveats.
Well, the biggest disconnect when you talk about relationships, I'm just going to address them generally as relationships, is the breakdown in communication.
Yeah.
That is the biggest problem right there. Is that when you refuse to communicate, and I was just talking about using the metaphor of tennis, or the analogy of tennis is like a tennis game. Communication works just like that. Okay, is when someone serves you or they encode a message and they hit that ball and it lands on your side, now it becomes your responsibility to decode the message. Once you've decoded, in other words, you've made an effort to understand what that person has encoded the initial message with, and now you're going to return after you've decoded, return and hit that ball back to their side, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But if either one of you or the both of you in the relationship refuse to communicate because you both want to dig your heels in and say, look, I'm not, I'm gonna do what I do. Okay. You ain't gonna tell me what to do. You're gonna tell me how I'm gonna be able to do it. You're gonna tell me when I'm gonna be able to do it. You see what I'm saying? So when you got two people in a relationship who think like that are both bullheaded or strong-minded or then the communication lines break down. And that is the biggest struggle, because this is the thing. Now when you're talking about black women and black men, they're both strong-minded individuals. Okay. It takes a very strong black man to deal with a strong black woman, and for her to even want to submit herself under that strong black man. But what we have seen over the years, and we've seen this even when we were growing up, black women, what they want to go after? The thugs. Okay, they because he's strong. Yeah, but he was going upside your head. You see what I'm saying?
And brought danger to the house.
And brought danger to the house. So it was just like, okay, so where was that happy medium?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the binding agent in a relationship is communication.
Yes.
You've got to communicate.
Yeah.
However long it takes to communicate. And it requires a whole lot of patience. I mean,
and communication is a blueprint. You have to learn how to read it. You have to learn how to read your people. You got to learn how to read your people. You know, you got to understand them, because a blueprint tells you exactly how to build, what to use to build it with, how to set forms, how to create a solid foundation, how to build up high, and how much weight you're going to need, how thick your footing's got to be to handle that weight. That's communication. That's what the blueprint gives you, that communication part. And if you don't have a blueprint when you're in a relationship, and you just going off of fickle feelings and deadbeat emotions, we're gonna always find ourselves unhappy.
Well, let me give you an example of something I witnessed today. Here's a perfect example. I'm at the hospital. Okay, so I come out of the hospital. There's this guy in a wheelchair, and he's asking this lady who's halfway hanging out of her car, but she's got her foot out the car, and she's of a different nationality, different background, different culture.
Yep.
He doesn't notice. He's not paying any attention. He's like, "You got a cigarette," and she's constantly like not understanding what he's saying. He asks her again, "I'm asking you, do you have a cigarette?" She's still looking at him like, and I overhear the conversation, and I heard a word that she used. Okay. And it was like, Mino, I said, and I walk over and I said, "Habla español solo?" She said, "Yes, I only speak Spanish." You see what I'm saying?
Just like that.
Then I tell brother, I said, she only speaks Spanish, man. That's why she wasn't responding. Oh, but he was determined. And that's what I mean when I say break down the communication. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And that couldn't have been a better example of someone who's refusing to pay attention to what the other person is trying to communicate to you, because because it doesn't matter to you what they're trying to communicate, because you want what you want when you want it, how you want it, and you're not listening to them.
And to go back to the blueprint, even with the blueprint, after you start to build, guess who has to come in and check your communication? Someone who knows codes.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in. This is not in code.
Mm-hmm.
You got to tear it all back down and start all over again.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened when breakdown in communication happened. You might have to have a mediator to come in and code it and let you know that where the problem is this: you're not listening to her. You didn't hear what she had to say because she don't speak English.
Mm-hmm.
So you see what I mean? So you was the decoder at that time.
Right.
So there's a lot of situations where I've come into contact with different cultures too, whether they only speak English or whether they speak Spanish or or some kind of Asian language, whatever the case. Well, one of the things that I notice is that they frivolously talk. They frivolously communicate with each other back and forth about nothing. Well, what we would perceive as nothing. Why are they talking so much? Everybody shut up! Everybody shut up! No, they're talking about, wow, this cup is really nice. I mean, it's really sweaty though. What do you think about this? And they're sitting there talking about the texture of a cup. Just drink the stuff is what we would be thinking. We'll just have your drink and be happy. But they do it about every little thing. And I think, like you said, it's the binding agent that makes it's part of that binding agent that makes the family cohesive and stick together. And we wonder why that's lacking in ours. It's because we're not talking to each other. We're not talking to understand either. We're talking. We speak
talking at each other,
yeah,
not
we
with each
at
other.
each other, and we listening to respond. And it's wild.
Yes. Yeah.
It's wild that we don't recognize that that's one of the things that's breaking down the communication.
Okay, I want to go to because we got off of one, went into relationships, but let's go into two. Two is that okay, especially when we talk about men, how we hold each other accountable. So number two is especially when it pertains to bringing being married, a married man being married, and we hanging around him, we know he's cheating,
Okay.
but we have a bro code or a sister code, and and these codes that we upholding has caused many failures in our community. So I just want to say, how do we hold each other accountable when we violating the code that's causing us to fail?
Well, let me first say that's conspiracy to the breakdown of the family.
Yes.
Let me first say that.
Yes.
And secondly, if you truly love somebody, you truly care about somebody, you tell them. You don't have to oust them in front of everybody, him or her. You don't have to oust them in front of everybody, but you owe it to them to tell them.
Yeah.
You owe it to them to say, hey, you know what? If this continues, I can't kick it with you.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Hey, I love you, but if you can't respect your family, man, or sis, whatever the case may be, I can't do this with you. Why? Because you don't want to be a conspirator especially because in our culture, we're uncle to everybody, we're auntie to everybody, we're nephew to everybody. People that are not even family, we call them family.
Yeah.
So if you call yourself that, okay, and you say you that, but yet you're contributing to the breakdown of their family, what kind of person really are you?
Two things. Here's two principles that anybody can take with them. And a lot of the times for me personally in my life, it's actually kept me safe from stuff. First thing to understand is that principle number one, anything with two legs and a mind of its own is going to do what it wants to do.
Yeah.
Period. But secondarily, you are the sum total of the top 5 people you spend the most time with. So, you got to measure that out, bro. And if you got some toxic some toxic energy in your friend circle, maybe you want to step to the side or get them out of here. That type of principle is what allows for me to go, nah, I can't do it. I can't do it. And either try to hold the guy accountable or try to hold the girl accountable, which I've done recently actually, with this young couple, in their 20s, or just completely step away from it. The example of the young couple earlier this year was just the male-female dynamic was messed up. The guy was a worker. He provided for his family, everything. She was a homemaker. But it was so, when you're young, you don't know the limits of the power that you're exerting over your partner.
Yeah.
He didn't know that. So he would put all these things, put all these rules and put all the structure in place, but then he wouldn't like take her out. He wouldn't create time and space for them to go do things as a couple, with the kids and or without the kids. And so I'm informing him, and then she cheats. And then he's oh man, I need this. I feel pain in my chest. You know what happens.
Yeah.
And then so then they're both coming to me as a mentor on the, like I said, on the money side. So she comes to me about the aspirations that she has, and one of those things is like OnlyFans or something, some bizarre thing like that. I said, I'm not teaching you how to do that. What you got to do is you got to go mend that thing with your husband, and then when I talk to him separately, you got to go mend that thing with your wife. Y'all got kids, and the kids is paramount at this point. Y'all chose something here. Let me know what happens. Leave him alone for a couple of months. Hey, what's going on, bro? Hey, what's going on, sis? How did y'all figure that out? Oh, we did this and we did that, but ultimately we separated. I was,
Hmm.
you know, how that relates to this is me choosing whether or not I want to continue to associate with dysfunction.
Yeah.
You know, I can only help as much as they want to help themselves. And like I say, I always go back to the principles. Anything with two legs in mind, his own's going to do what it wants to do. But I'm the sum total of the top five that I'm spending the most time with. And I don't want to. So y'all go over there.
Yeah. Well, read it. Yeah.
Okay, so Alan McFall says, walking away is one thing, but is silence towards the spouse considered wrong as well?
Well, it that would depend on why you're being silent towards the spouse. Because I would tell you this, and I'm speaking from experience. Um, where there's no communication, the damage continues. It's like it's equivalent to allowing a fire to continue to burn. Um, where there's no water, the fires can continue to burn, it's going to continue to consume things. So the lack of communication, the fact that you're walking past each other like ships in the night, the issue is going to continue to burn because the conversation is being had. It's just not verbal. It's nonverbal. It's actually taking place in the mind of each individual that walks past each other. Because I guarantee you, as you walk past each other, in your mind, you're saying something about that person
Oh,
as you walk past them. Each time you see them. Oh man, here come this.
man.
All right. You know,
Yeah.
oh, here we go. Why are you in the kitchen while I'm in the kitchen? You know, I was in the kitchen. I mean, just stuff that it sometimes it come out in the side. There's a whole lot of that.
Yeah. There's a whole
You know,
conversation in there.
so what am I saying? I'm saying that if all that's going on, somebody has to be the mature one to initiate the conversation. And then once you initiate the conversation, it's going to require a whole lot of patience to get through the conversation.
Yeah.
That means that the both of you are going to hear things that you don't want to hear about yourself from the other's perspective that you must work through in order to achieve the goal of maintaining a relationship. But I can guarantee you this, that if you will take the time and the patience to hear the other person and you hear each other out, that's where the mending takes place.
Yes.
But silence is not it.
No. And you know, and when you dealing with, we gotta remember when we in a relationship, we're not in it by ourselves. So we have to make sure we we look for the contributing of the other person's feelings and what they bring to the table. Because sometimes what we do, we kind of look at everything as me, and mine. What I'm going through, what I feel, and what this is about me right now, and this is my space. This is my life. But when you go into a relationship, all that is we, us, and ours. What we do affects our situation, affects our kids, affects our household, affects our community. It hurts us.
One of the things that I would say too to add on is, learn to speak in the way, like you got to learn your person. Speak in the way that you know that they can hear you. Speak in the way that they can hear you. And then in return, listen to understand. Don't just listen to respond. That's what gets lost so much. That's what kicks up a lot of these breakups and a lot of these explosive arguments and stuff is that if both people are listening to understand, and then both people are speaking in the language that the person they're talking to can hear,
Mm-hmm.
then you have a lot more success, like you said, getting through the dispute. Therefore, silence isn't necessary. It's just things like emotional competency and word selection at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Can you put all your emotional stuff, the stuff that's making you feel hurt, to the side long enough, not forever, but long enough to hear, understand what they're saying, what they're
Mm-hmm.
saying to you. There's been so many times where I'm listening to, a counterpart, and I'm like, no, heck no, I just jump out the window, and I have to come back to it again. And I missed little details that would have otherwise complimented me. I missed that maybe something in her distress that she was saying that was actually extremely respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She might be pleading, or she might not be pleading. She might be upset.
Yeah.
But even within her being upset, she's actually being very respectful by doing what I asked her to do. Bring the problem to me so that we can solve it together.
Mm-hmm.
And in certain times, I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening to understand. I was listening
To respond.
just to respond.
Brother McFall said, "I mean, as the friend, if you walk away from your boy because of his behavior, do you not take the info to the spouse?"
Oh no,
Ooh,
No,
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 no, no,
no,
no.
no,
You don't
no.
do
I
that.
don't think you even
No,
go to.
that's
I
not.
don't think a man should go talk to another
I
man's
would.
wife
Yeah,
anyway.
well,
I don't think that's right.
I would say that that's not your conversation to have.
Yeah.
You give him the feedback, you give him something to think about, but he or she is the one in the relationship. It's their job to fix it.
Right.
Yes.
That's not your job. Your job is just not to be a part of it.
Right.
Yes.
I never, in that scenario that I was in, I never said, I didn't get in the middle of a relationship. I just said, this is how you fix 1, 2, 3 as a man. I'm not teaching you anything, because all you're going to do as a woman is you're going to be attracted to me setting rules and stuff around you. So, no, and this is what you do. And then off you go.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And hey.
Well, okay, so on the next one was now we talked about him cheating on his wife. Now, what about when he put his hands on his woman, or you see him putting hands on women, period, in the community?
Ooh, that's tough.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, it's pretty much the same approach. I mean, if this is your homeboy, homegirl, whatever, because I address both, um, because abuse does go both ways.
Yeah.
People don't like to address it that way, like it's only just one way. No, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You bring it to their attention, and you let them know that's not cool. There's a better way. There's a better way to communicate without using your hands.
Yes.
And if they need help with communication, then that's what counseling's for, or that's what or talk to a neutral party, somebody that's for them and not for just one.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing that can destroy a relationship quicker than anything is when you go talking to a biased party, whether it's a best friend, whether it's your mama or whoever it is, that's only for one and not for the two.
Mm-hmm.
Don't talk to people like that, because when you talk to a person that's for the one and not for the two, that means no matter what you do, you're right. You don't want to talk to somebody that's going to tell you right when you're clearly wrong, or somebody that's telling them that they're right when they're clearly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
No, it needs to be a neutral party that sees that wants to see the both of you make it.
Mm-hmm.
Have a conversation with the both of you. I would even caution against speaking to couples apart from each other, because that is dangerous ground, because you start talking to couples apart from each other, then it's a matter of, well, what did you tell her? Especially guys that way.
That's what I was just talking about.
Hey, what you doing talking to my wife? Hey, dude, hey, or then there's the other side. There's the other side. And you touched on it for a second, Mike, when you said that sometimes, especially when it comes to a woman, when you coming in, you start giving her direction, all of a sudden she's attracted to you. You see what I'm saying?
And that will
cause a problem. So in reality, when it comes to couples, if they were allowing you and you're a friend of both, talk to them at the same time.
Yes.
And just be the mediator, meaning that you encourage them, hey, speak, encourage the other one to listen. and then vice versa. Let the other one speak, encourage the other one to
Let
listen.
me compliment what you're saying too, because like I'm remembering one situation where I did have a homie who was well, the couple was aggressive with each other
Mm-hmm.
physically. That was like part of their thing. That's just like, and I'm like, why do y'all do that?
Mm-hmm.
And he started going with her, and this and that. She's sitting there quiet and everything. But I'm looking at her, and she ain't innocent either, though. Like she throws stuff, and she burned him with this and that, and she's in there emotionally manipulating the guy and all this other stuff. I said, look, bro, that's all you got to do. I said this in front. All you got to do, you got to realize there's different levels to anger. Right? Anger is not just anger. It's discomfort, then dislike, then it's upset, then it's angry, then it's infuriated. Okay, at the top, if you get infuriated, you're already out of control, and you don't put your whole future and everything else in jeopardy. So what you need to do is you need to realize what that you're uncomfortable, and that your meter is going up. When you get to a certain level, you know where you at.
Yeah.
Go take a walk. Go take a
Mhm.
walk. When you walking, the exercise is going to exercise your heart. The emotional impulse that you have when you was right in front of her will dissipate enough to the point where when you come back around her, maybe then y'all can just have a conversation instead
Yeah.
of pow 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 kick kick.
Well, see, this is the thing. The flip side of that is this is what we all know. Women are very verbal and men are physical.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, so when you recognize the stimulant, and we talked about this last week.
Yeah, yeah.
When you recognize the stimulant, meaning, let's say I'm gonna just use this as an example. She starts running her mouth, and you realize that you ain't feeling that, and you feel yourself escalating. That is the time to disconnect immediately.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
before you hear too much.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
meaning you say, and it's okay to say, hey, babe, you know what? I'm gonna walk away for a minute. We can continue this conversation later on, but right now I don't think it's a good time. That's what a man should do.
Yeah.
A man should do that right there. That's being a good leader. That's being a good head of a household when you remain in control and you say, babe, this is not a good time to have this conversation. This situation is escalating, so I'm going to disconnect and walk away. It's okay to walk away. It doesn't mean you're a chump just because you walk away.
Yeah.
No, it takes a lot of strength to walk away.
Yeah, it does.
Okay,
It does.
or
Especially
vice
when
versa.
Yeah.
If you see that the man is starting to slam things around, boom, woman, disconnect.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
hey, babe, I can see right now that this is not a good time to have this conversation. I want us to have this conversation. I'm not saying that your feelings aren't important, but they are important. But I don't think that our conversation right now will be fruitful. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna disconnect. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Again, now that's a woman being a great helpmeet.
Yeah.
Okay, she's helping her man calm down. She's allowing him in space. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But let me tell you what people screw up. People screw up when they start tracking each other around the house.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay, you got one trying to walk away and the other one won't let it go.
Mhm.
Track. And the person's escalating the whole time that you're tracking them because you refuse to cut that line. Okay, it's like catching a fish. You realize it's too big. It's about to pull you out the boat, but you gotta have it. You gotta catch that fish. So instead of cutting the line, you allow yourself to get pulled into the water. Now you're drowning, drowning in anger because you allowed yourself to get pulled into the water. Those are the things that we have to be mindful of, and that's why I say, and like I said, it's men have to recognize that women they're very verbal, very witty. They can say some things that can cut you pretty deep.
Oh yeah.
And men, physical. That's what they want to resort to.
Yeah.
Okay, physical street, punching walls, throwing things, slamming doors. I mean, all those kind of things because it gets physical with the man. So again, when the both of you whoever recognizes the stimulant, disconnect immediately, but let the person know it's not that your feelings aren't important because they are, but can we talk about this later?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And I think a lot of time is, a lot of when people get into a heated conversation, I think most of the time what they do, everybody wants to prove that everybody wants to be right in the conversation. And I think you just got to remember that just because someone's wrong, that doesn't make you right. And just because they're right, that'll make you wrong. And I think you got to have that. And they said when you are having an argument, I remember when I was studying psychology, they said arguments are healthy but you got to learn to fight fair.
Oh yeah.
They say you must fight fair when you argue. They say you don't insult, you don't degrade, you don't belittle, and you don't attack, assassinate characters. You know, the first thing, and women are good at that. They go after the man's character first. They go after his manhood. They talk about his manhood, and that always going to trigger a man. And man already know that that's the first thing she's coming for. She's coming for your private part, or she's coming for your, she's coming for what you ain't doing in the home. It's always something. It's always something that's going to cause her to go in up the deep end on something to just attack you to make you feel so little. And a man's thing is, his ordeal is to pick up something and crash. He like Hawk. Crash.
Because he wants to intimidate.
He wants to intimidate her to bring her back to submission.
You can't force nobody.
And he can't force nobody into submission. Just like you can't force her into submission. She can't force you to be a man by yelling at you.
Right.
That's the problem. We got to stop that.
Those are called dignity violations.
Yes.
Okay. When you assault, anytime you assault someone's value, mean you devalue that person, you strip them of that, or you attempt to strip them of that, they're going to fight you for it. They're going to fight you for their value.
Yep.
Now, it takes a really strong person to know that they're valuable, regardless of what someone says to them. Okay. But I deal with this on a regular basis. I mean, teenagers struggle with this all the time.
Yes.
Okay. Someone says something, they got my name in their mouth. You know.
They get that from their parents.
But I'll tell you this. And this is maybe this is going to help somebody. But I always ask children. I said, are you good at math? And they say, yeah, I'm decent at math. Okay. Some might say I'm not as great at math. I said, well, tell me this. Anything times zero is what? And they say 0. Including people's opinions. That's what I add. And so what I'm saying is, you have to understand that people's opinions of you are not the end all. Okay.
It's just an opinion.
It's just that, an opinion. So when we can get past the fact that we stop violating each other's values, stop engaging in dignity violations, cutting each other down, just like you said, going after the man. Oh, yeah, that's why you got a little this or a little that. Or that's why you didn't satisfy me last night. Oh, that's why your best friend got a bigger butt than you got, or whatever. Just all those little things. Those are pot shots.
Yes.
And those do not help at all.
Nope.
That right there eliminates the communication. That kills the conversation, and people want to get physical from there.
And moving forward, even if you work through that, that's always going to be on the
back. It's always going to be in their mind.
So that's going to be a constant wick.
Yep.
So as soon as you do something else, that thing's going to light up immediately.
Yep.
So you got to constantly. That's why I said. That's why they always say fight, but fight fair.
Yeah.
Make sure you just don't understand what kind of arsenal you have in your toolbox. You don't go to fix something with a hammer if you're going to utilize a hammer in the wrong way, because the hammer got 2 sides to it. It got a side to build, not it driving nails in to build to put something together, to structuralize something. And then it's got a claw where it pulls things apart. You got to know when to use that. You got to know when to take the solid side and drive something in where it needs to be bonded together, and then you got to know when to take the claw side and pull it apart. You just can't that's what I'm saying. Be careful with type of tool. Be careful with the tool you have.
Can I elaborate on that? I love that analogy that you're using. That analogy right there. And basically what he's saying is, you got to know when to drive home the point.
Yes.
And when not to drive home the point. Okay. You got to know what things need to be removed when they need to be removed. That includes insults.
Yes.
Okay. Those kind of things you want to remove. You want to move all those out the conversation.
And other people out your business. You want to, that's what the clause is. Unhealthy people.
That's the claw right there.
Yes.
The claw removes all the unhealthy people, everybody out your business, all the insults, all those things, because you want to keep it healthy. Then, in order to drive home your point, you can only drive home your point when you got that person's attention, or that it's even the neutral time where they're willing to listen to you. Yes. You can't drive home a point with anybody who's walking away from you,
or a person intoxicated with anger,
intoxicated, under influence of some kind of drugs or whatever, or a person or intoxicated with anger. Yeah, that's number one right there. You're not, that person is not in a mind and not in a frame of mind to listen to you. They're at a, what you kind of talked about earlier, an infuriated state. Yeah. And when someone's in an infuriated state, they ain't listening. The only thing that you can engage in at that point is de-escalation. Yeah. Bring them down, and they're not going to come all the way down until they feel safe to communicate with you. That means all the insults have to be gone. All the stimulants, the button pushing. If you know where the buttons are, stop pushing them, or don't push them. Avoid them, because why? Because you want them to de-escalate. Yes. But as soon as you push a button, even if you touch it just a little bit, they're going to go right back up into infuriation, being infuriated, and the conversation never take place.
They shoot right past anger. Like when I was really, really, really angry after my divorce, it took a couple years. It was a couple years. I was just angry all the time. Yeah. During that time period, at least God gave me, a sensibility to study what is wrong with me while I'm having the problem. Mm-hmm. One of the things I did, like I gave that scale of uncomfortable and then upset, and then, all anger really is, I kind of redefined it. All anger really is uncomfortability to the point where you feel, which is the feeling part, where you feel like you need to do something about it immediately. Yes. To alleviate the discomfort. There comes the de-escalation, right? And then the reasonability comes back in, and maybe you're able to have a conversation. But that's the definition that I gave. It's uncomfortable to the point where you feel like you need to do something about it immediately.
And that goes for even if you're not in the volatile state, even if you're into the cheating state, you just cannot go off of, you want to feel happy right now. So you go talk to somebody else outside. Yeah. You go talk to the opposite sex of you, trying to talk about your relationship to them. And then they making themselves look like this glory, this thing, because you're in a vulnerable state and not really thinking.
And that infuriation, and that's right. You are exactly right. And being angry isn't one-dimensional. There's variations of that. So you can be infuriated, like with your woman or whatever, to the point maybe she said you got a little thing or whatever, and you are now on a mission to prove
other women like it.
Everybody, all these other girls like it. So what are you talking about? That's infuriation. When you're infuriated, you're angry to the point where you're out of control. You're out of control, man. And sit on down somewhere.
And that is called deadbeat emotions and fickle feelings that you're riding with. You're holding on to some deadbeat emotions and fickle feelings. We have to get out. We got to know what these deadbeat emotions is and these fickle feelings, because those are the things that keep us in harm's way. They keep us in a stagnated position. How are we gonna get out of the stagnation if we still on deadbeat emotions and fickle feelings? We were supposed to be a group of people that's supposed to be civilized. Mm-hmm. That's supposed to have common sense. But we're not using our common sense, because guess what? We got people practicing, going to school, teaching psychology, changing the rules right in front of our faces by telling people, "Oh, y'all good for each other, but y'all just not made for each other." Mm-hmm. I never heard no bull crap like that before in my life until today's. All these new cliche stuff I hear nowadays, I see why we're in a falling state, because we use the words are powerful, and when you start to embrace inaccurate words and make it a code of conduct and make it a code of ethic, so you can do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. We're gonna keep being in this mud hole, sinking in quicksand, trying to find a rope and pull ourselves out, and there's no rope. All we doing, we keep thinking we're gonna pull on something to pull us out. We just constantly keep saying, I just don't get it. Why are we like that? Why are we getting onto all these stupid cliches and making it a reality?
Man, that's a complicated question, because some of it is coping mechanisms lacked on top of coping mechanisms. Some of it is dysfunction lapped on top of more dysfunction. Like when you shoot an arrow at a target, right? You got a straight path. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, if you got to adjust for wind. 1
Mhm.
degree off gonna send that arrow somewhere completely different, even if
Yeah.
you think you're shooting straight.
And if the eye and hand coordination ain't there.
Right. So if there's a degree of dysfunction, everything going down that line is just gonna pile up more dysfunction until the arrow lands in somebody's back. That wasn't.
And it's a bystander get hit.
Yeah. So these
Mhm.
coping mechanisms piled on top of each other is symbolic to the arrow 1 degree off.
Mm.
All these dysfunctions piled on top of each other. It's just trailing down the wrong drill the whole way. Even though you think you're shooting straight,
Mhm.
you gotta make adjustments for that wind to blow.
What do you think?
And one, the reality is that it's not teaching people to problem solve. It's not teaching people to communicate. It's teaching people to run from
Yes.
communication, run from problems. No matter where you go, no matter what relationship you're in, you're going to have problems. In any relationship,
Yeah.
if you're in a relationship where there's never been any problems, somebody's lying.
Somebody is the Lord.
Okay, somebody is a volcano waiting to erupt.
Yes.
That means somebody is stuffing stuff, and eventually one day you're going to see there's going to be this massive eruption, and then all this stuff is going to come spilling out, and you're going to wonder where it all came from, because the whole time they weren't being honest about who they are, what they felt, and why they felt what they felt.
Mhm.
So it's important that people learn to communicate. But the biggest part of communication, and we touched on it earlier, is listening. Meaning you have to be willing to listen enough to make it a sincere, and I stress the word sincere, effort to understand what the other person is trying to communicate to you. That way you know where they are emotionally,
Mhm.
in order to really address what they're needing you to address. And I can guarantee you that when you address their issue, they will de-escalate, and then they will address your issue, and you will de-escalate.
Mhm.
2 de-escalated people can make a relationship work, but it requires both people being willing to de-escalate, to listen, and to love the other person enough to try to see where they're coming from. That
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah. You know, and a lot of times people get in a relationship because they think that relationships, of marriages, and all that is based off of love. No, relationships are based off of what y'all building together. Love comes in there. It's how you operate within love, because a lot of people don't even know how to operate in love. You know what I mean? Love is it counts no wrong. It does no harm, but it does harm in some way, because there's certain things you're gonna do and certain things, because you're gonna grow. You can grow apart sometime, but you got to know how to come back. That's what they call. That's why they said. And that's why anything you build today, you have to you got to know how to maintenance it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to maintain it. That's what they call it, maintaining.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know when you have to know you have to come in and do an oil change on a car. You got to know you got to do a tune up on it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know that you got to flush some certain systems out,
Mm-hmm.
because there's old revenue, there's old fragment from metal inside of that burnt out from your car.
Mm-hmm.
So some of that stuff has to be flushed out.
Mm-hmm.
That's in relationships. Everything that's built today is built off of human reality, the human identity. Cars, even a car, it has to have a venting system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when you go, you need a vent. There's certain things you have to vent, but you got to be careful who you're venting to.
Mm-hmm.
Even with a car, they put it in. They got a Cadillac converter to keep it from venting out, to cause harm. Same as you. You got to be careful who you venting to, because you can cause harm to yourself and to your relationship and to others.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be careful. Put a Cadillac converter in your idea when you're thinking about how you venting to other people, and be careful because every Cadillac converter cannot fit on every car.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to remember that too. So when you're venting to somebody that's not good for you, that might be the wrong Cadillac converter for the wrong car.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just giving you scenarios. But we are smarter than what we smarter than we act. Because like I said, we are when God created us, he took us from the dirt, he formed us. And the first thing he did to show us that we are of him, he breathed the breath of life in us. his life. That means that, and if God is love and he did all these things, he breathed what he had, what was in him into us. We have the same, we have the same, he said, let us make man in our own image after our own likeness. So we in his own likeness and in his own image. So how we're not operating in that, but we say that we are God, we love God. I just don't get this part.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as a problem arises, like you said, nobody communicates.
Mm-hmm.
But they quick to go communicate with somebody else so they can go be in another relationship, thinking that that's going to solve all be problems.
You know, it's just gonna be new problems, just with a new person.
Can you read that? Go ahead.
Right here?
Black screen, yeah.
Okay. A major Achilles heel in relationships is warped expectations that we project towards our partners. Too many people validate their expectation / preference simply because it's theirs. We set up our part. Let's see more. We set up our partners for failure. Well, expectations does actually can set a partner up for failure. However, oftentimes what happens is that when people initially get together, they don't talk enough. They're too busy rushing to hurry up and get to the bedroom.
Yes.
So instead of talking and learning each other, they're wanting to hurry up and get with each other like that. You know what I'm talking about? Keeping this PG, just in case you got young people watching. But when you take the time to really get to know somebody, you get to know where you agree and disagree. Because in every relationship, no matter what the relationship is, there are what's called no fly zones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and when the more you talk and get to know each other, you learn about where the no fly zones are. Okay, or what we call deal breakers.
Yes.
Okay, you gotta get, if you don't take the time to learn what the deal breakers are, and then when you try to, and then after you then slept with each other, whatever you didn't did, and without having a communication, then after you done that, and then here comes the communication, then you're like, wait a minute, hold on, why are you trying to lay all these expectations on me? This is the thing, the expectations were always there. Mm-hmm. You just weren't listening, nor were you paying attention because you were too busy into them physically. Mm-hmm. and not making that mental connection first.
Yes.
That's where psychology comes in. Mm-hmm. It's necessary that you make a mental connection to make sure that you guys even connect before the physical, because see, everything that glitters is not gold. You look at the package and you automatically assume, oh, I gotta have it, but you don't realize that the crazy that's on the inside the box. Okay, so then by the time you open the box, you realize it's full of crazy. But you didn't already did that thing. Now it's even crazier. Now that thing is throwing eggs at your house,
flattening your tires,
keying your car and flattening your tires. Because why? Because you didn't take the time to find out what was inside the box. You got inside the box. You climbed inside the box, but you didn't look inside the box. And you want to look inside the box before you climb in the box, if that makes sense.
And to piggyback of that, we have to be cognizant of when we moving into these new realms of new relationship, because people ain't mentally stable in today's time, and you bringing them around your children, then you find out he molested your child, he doesn't like your child, or she doesn't like your child, or she burned your child when you left him with him. You got to be careful when you're out here in this dating pool. Because you running from relationship to relationship to relationship, because you want to flee flesh and not knowing how to deal with conflict resolution. Our society is built on, our society has to have conflict resolution in your home, at school, at work, everywhere. There's conflict. You got to learn to utilize conflict resolution, and the first stage of conflict resolution is properly communicating, understanding, listening, and not just hearing.
Right.
Seeing and not just saw.
Right.
Tasting, but really taste what is really going on.
Right.
Feeling, but really feel what really is. These are the things. These are our senses. We got to use all of our senses when it comes to dealing with certain things. We can't just always think about the fleshly part, and then we just stuck on the flesh because it's being pleased for right now. Remember, after 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months, all that goes away. Remember that movie Disappearing Act?
Mm-hmm.
You remember the wife, I mean the ex-girlfriend with the 2 kids when he went over there, when she finally got a chance to meet Lathan. She said, I guess Nathan was complaining about him not working and this and that. She said, it was okay when she said, I don't want to say it on the live, but she said a big thing ain't always gonna last long, is it? You know.
Well, and that's I mean, and to piggyback on what Mike's saying, and which makes perfect sense, and that is we're so caught up into satisfying a need that we miss the need.
Yes.
Okay. You've gotta when you concentrate, it's like, men say you thinking with the wrong head. You get the point. That wasn't a play on words either, but you want to not miss the need because you're functioning on one need.
Yeah.
There's a need that's more important to determine whether or not the relationship works. Okay, I'm not saying that other thing isn't important, because that's important as well, because you want to be able to connect there as well.
Yeah.
But where you first want to connect is you first want to know if you have a mental connection. You want to know if you have a spiritual connection. You want to know if you guys can even communicate on the same level.
Or if you got sick, or if you got sick, is that person gonna be there for you?
Right. You want to know all those things.
That goes into vetting your partner properly at the outset. When you first meet them, I didn't figure out what dating was or how to properly date until I was well into my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. So there's got to be a lot of us. If there's 2 of us in the room, 3 of us in the room together, it's a lot of us that don't know what to properly date for. Man.
And you got to study people's family history and how connected they are with their family, because that plays a big role. Because a lot of the traumas in relationships stem from some family issues that was from your youth, and a lot of that pops up later on and in the relationship as you moving forward. And it's sad once you start to develop, or once you start to accumulate assets and life and stuff together, all of a sudden you start to see that family drama pop up, and then it's just like the plane trying to take off the runway to get to a destination, and the plane just blows up. Because you can't get nowhere, because that family issue comes up and tears up everything.
Can I ask like a little caveat question before we go to another thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you vet for spiritual connection with the person?
Well, as far as that's concerned, do you believe the same thing? Okay. Because that's the biggest thing right there. Okay. You might have one that believes this and another one that believes that. Okay. And then you had kids. Now they're confused. Okay.
Yeah.
No, you get my point.
Yes, sir.
Right? Because what am I saying? That the easiest way to put it is this: you can't serve 2 gods.
Right.
Okay. You're serving this God, and this one over here is serving that God. Okay. So if you know if this one's over here serving that God, and you're serving this God, and you're committed to this God, then you already know this person doesn't line up with you. You need to go ahead and let them go on their way.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
And you have to do that, because some people just love straddling the fence. They love to go to church and play the part while they're in church, but get out of church and be on a totally different playing field. They got a whole different uniform on when they get out of church. But when they go to church, they put on this uniform. They get out of church, they put on this uniform. But then they want to come in and walk and glide across the floors and look like they're holier than thou, and just be terrible. And those are traumas. Those are traumas, you know what I mean? And those are a lot of traumas. I'm just saying, I see it all the time. I reckon, and it's sad, there's time where, my cousin tell you, there was time when people thought I was an atheist. Because I didn't move accordingly to how people thought and perceived that a walk is supposed to walk. I always felt like this: you got to be who you are, and you got to know who you are, and you got to know who you are in your relationship with God. Now, everybody relationship is always going to have some type of difference, like our fingerprints. They are different. All fingerprints have a unique imprint in them. We all different because we all serving, but some of us might serve wrong at one particular. I've seen myself serve God in ways where I say when I was like me and my cousins hang out, back in the day, and my cousin was always the conscious one. He always was the one because I used to just go. And he's a hate taking me places because I was always getting in the fights. And he used to be mad at me all the time. I remember he used to always man, and then he'd give me warnings before we go out. Hey man, I don't want to get in there. I want to go have a good time or whatever. Don't be trying to get into it, no guys, because you trying to prove yourself and this and that. And I get there, I be like, I'm cool. And also I just get angry for no reason, and then I just ready to fight, didn't I?
No, it always began with a whisper. Somebody come whisper in your ear. And then I was like,
and then he over there like, oh here we go. He got mad and just leave me. He used to get mad and leave me. But but what I'm saying, reason why I'm saying that is because I had to learn. I heard what he said.
I can see that being true.
I can hear I was hearing what he was saying, but I wasn't listening. And then when I had to go through some life chronicles, I had to go through some hard time, and something happened that really it was a tragic that happened in my life. Everything that was said back then. Now remember, he's my younger cousin. All that came to fruition. Yeah. It was always God's hand on me, telling me. I was just ignoring the signs. And that's why I said when we straddled the fence, I was straddling the fence, knowing that God wanted to use me to do something greater than what I was doing. But sometimes I think I had to walk through a walk. I had to go through something. So now I can sit down and have this talk with y'all and have this type of, thing, because now I'm able to help other people. You see how many people I can talk to? I'm talking to people from all over the world.
Let me try to, because like there's no way to disagree with what you said. I absolutely agree with everything you said. And I can just see it play out in my head. Like, but so like, I asked because I have an answer to the question. And so here's my answer to the same question. How do you vet for spiritual connectivity between you and the person? You first of all, you have to know yourself. You have to know what you like in that space. If you're a devout Christian, then you know that about yourself. You got to know the qualifications. You like this scripture and that scripture and this scripture. Like for me, for example, when I was really hard Bible thumping, I knew that if I was going to meet a woman in that period of time, that she probably would have to be something like Ruth, because that was like my favorite book in the whole Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I grew and progressed beyond that, I got other different types of things too. And I also figured out that I wasn't as religious as I thought I was. I was more frequency oriented. So then I changed it, and then different women started to come. You know what I mean? I started to attract different types of women.
Yeah.
Okay. So all these little caveats along the way are what you when we say vet, you qualify or you allow the woman to qualify or disqualify herself based on what you know will complement you. Right? And I can only speak from male's perspective because I'm a guy. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. But that's part of what I do now to allow someone near me on the spiritual front. If she's not an energy monger, positive energy monger with the understanding that she is a conduit for the energy, I can't accept her. And now that I know that, now that I'm older, it's easier for me to say, dang, she's really pretty, but nah, can't do it. Can't do it. She's on the atheist thing, or she's on she's on the Muslim thing. I'm not Muslim. I can't do it. Can't do it. That's how you vet.
And another thing, when we're looking for a partner, you know what I mean, and we're looking for our connection, there is I always say this, things that you always look for. You always, like I said, I'm with my spiritual connection now. I start to look into seeing how she's brought up in her home. Because then I got to ask myself the question: am I willing to? Am I able to deal with that pain when it comes out? Because it's going to come out somewhere. And I have to ask myself, okay, when my cousin know I was wild with women back in the days, and I used to be verbally abusive. I used to be physically abusive. I used to just I was just very I was just out of control at one point in time. Because hurt people hurts people. I was hurting from childhood traumas, and I didn't realize that it was the childhood traumas that caused me to go into a different way. Even though I said I didn't want to be like him, but I looked in the mirror one day. I found out I was just like him, and it made me mad. And I had to go back into the mirror and say, you know what? I am not you, and I refuse to be you. So then I started to develop a different mindset, and I always said I wanted to be a better person than I was yesteryears.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to be the same man I was yesteryears. I want to be a better man today.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always hiking up the mountain to become a better me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not perfect, and I can't sit here on this in front of anybody and tell anybody I'm perfect, because I'm not. But I can say this: you like me today better than you would have liked me back in yesteryears. I'm just being honest with you. So I'm just saying, I want to just say thank the Lord for giving me that grace, and thank some of the teachings that I got from my organization, some of the things I read, and from scriptures. All of it, everything played a part in my development, in my growth. And I just want to say, I just give thanks and homage to God for putting me in certain predicaments where I'm able to see and being able to bless others with some of the things I went through. And I want my children and while my kids is watching this, I want y'all to know, I don't tell you nothing that I have not been through. And I want y'all to understand, I love you enough to give you don't have to go to jail and go do all the stuff, because I done enough for y'all. This is live better, do better than what I did. You see, I wasn't in your life for a minute because of those things, the choices I made. So y'all don't have to have that. So I just want y'all to, especially my young sons, I mean, y'all, I see some of the choices y'all making, man. Man, come on. We gotta do better. Those who know better do better. Cherie said, hello, hey. She said, true. And then she says facts. And she said the room looks cozy. Yeah, it is, Cherie.
A little bit.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, I want to say thank you, because you was inspiration of some of my development at a particular time in my life, at that particular space, in that time, and what you said to me really mattered. Remember, I always say there's 3 timetables of scientific timetables I always talk about: time, space, and matter. At that particular time when you gave me something, it mattered. It just took. It was some space I had to go through. I had to be in before I was able to develop what you were saying, and it helped me today. So I don't knock nothing that my grandpa gave me. There was things my grandpa was trying to teach us, and we didn't want to hear what he had to say. Everywhere when he tried to teach us. Remember, I didn't want to do construction work. Remember how hard he was on us when we were trying to do, and he nailed this long. He wants you to hit that thing in with 2 hits with a hammer. You didn't do it. You still bad. Remember that? All of us ran from him. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
We ran from him. But one day he grabbed me by my shirt. He had me up in the air. He said, "Boy," I said, "I don't want to do that work you doing." And he said, he grabbed me by my shirt, had me up in the air. He said, "Boy, if you learn this trade, you'll never be broke." Mm-hmm. And guess what? He never lied, never steered me wrong. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying, sometimes you don't want to hear today, but you're gonna hear tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So take in consideration when elders are giving you something, and that's what we're missing today. This is what this thing is about when we say hold men accountable. Us men got to go back and talk to our young boys again. We got to talk to them again.
You hold the men accountable, the young men follow.
Yes.
The young men are always watching. They may not tell you that they're watching, but they're watching.
And you held me accountable, and you didn't even know you was holding me accountable at a young age. We was young. See, he was the only one that had a car. So we relied on him to come pick us up. And when I pissed him off, he wouldn't pick me up. I was in punishment. I felt like I was in the doghouse. You know, he'd drive by and honk and keep going, and that hurt. So I was like, dang, I gotta get my mind right. You know, but that was the things that we had. You know, that was tough love.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need to have tough love.
Yeah, with each other.
Which one are we on?
4.
Oh.
Go ahead and read it.
So number 4 is within the context of should men hold each other accountable. Do we hold men accountable when they're causing disruption within our community? What do you mean by what did you mean when you wrote that?
Well, I believe I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of disruption in our community that our
Mm-hmm.
young men are engaging in, and some of them older,
Yeah.
which we would say should know better.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of that going on. But instead of holding each other accountable or holding the men in our community accountable, we give them accolades. We give them pats on the back.
Mm-hmm.
We give them attaboys. Oh yeah. I would have did the same thing if I was you, man. If I was you, okay. It's like here's an example. Even when fights break out, big fights, big crowd fights, what did everybody do? They took out their cell phone. There's no accountability in that. That's entertainment. Yeah. Instead of seeing two black men go at it and breaking it up, pulling them apart, you're saying get them, and out comes the cell phone instead. So you sit back so you can get the best view. Matter of fact, you even get closer. Not getting closer so you can break it up. You get closer so you can get a better view, so that you. Those are facts.
And people get killed.
Yeah, no, that's why.
And then they stumping this man out.
And you say,
in his head, and you over there, whoa,
and then go tell the story, man. Yeah. I was there. I was there. I was front seat. I got the video to show it.
And then the guy dies, and then what they got to say then?
Exactly. That's a lack of accountability.
I was thinking that what you meant by disruption in the community was, we have the gangs, right? Mm-hmm. Gangs will go do something, some activity, rob, steal, kill. Is that what you mean by disruption, or you mean disruption in the community?
Oh, all of it.
All of this. Anything that's not governed by law, because everything is governed by laws. Mm-hmm. So if you're violating the law of the code of conduct, the code of ethics, you violate the law of moral judgment. Like, if you violating a woman's elderly or woman's rights, you violating the children's rights. Anything is disruptive when you violating. When you violating something, you disrupting something.
I mean, it's just like when you talk about, and I'm gonna touch on this very lightly, sexual assault.
Yes.
Okay. You know about it. Yeah. You're there.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you may not be an active participant, you might be the lookout.
Yes.
Oh wow.
You see what I'm saying? While it's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you might have been the person that led them there.
Yeah.
Okay. You might have been the person that gave them a ride.
How many times you went to the club and seen your girl walk by and a guy grabbed her butt?
Yeah.
It's a violation.
Yeah, violation. Disrespectful.
That's disrespectful. Right. That could be your sister. That could be your mom. That could be your auntie. That could be your cousin.
But we
did it.
But you think about it this way. It's cool when it's somebody else's sister.
Yes.
Until it becomes your sister.
Yes.
See, because you may give your homeboy a high five.
Yeah.
When he does it to someone else's sister, you think it's funny then.
Yeah.
But then when someone does it to your sister, now you mad. Now you going and looking for him because someone violated your sister, even though you were just hanging with your homeboy and watched him do it to somebody else's sister.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a hypocrite.
Yeah, and out of that dysfunction and out of that disruption, violence.
Exactly.
And then murder.
Exactly.
So if you're going to everything feeds when disruption happens. It can feed into murder. It can feed into malice. It can feed into anything. So you have to nip it in a bucket. But the only thing we got to do, we got to hold each other accountable once we start to identify it.
Right.
When we identify, we got to hold each other accountable. Now, a lot of us don't hold it accountable because guess what? We participate in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So this is the code of ethics.
Yes.
This is the code of conduct. Because I'm putting each one of the things you're saying in its own category, compartmentalizing real time like that sometimes. But
read that. What was that?
Is there a comment?
That comment real quick, because I
This
think
is mine.
that was your answer.
Yeah, this is mine. Vanessa Barnes says, "Sex is easy. Y'all can work on financial stuff, but are y'all compatible? That's what makes the difference."
Oh, yeah, you're right,
Yes.
100%.
100%.
Couldn't have put it better myself. She's right, 100%.
And then she taught me a lot of these principles that I'm espousing. Anything with two legs in the mind, that came from her.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Sharice Gregory said, "Or your daughter." Good point.
Yeah.
What y'all was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I understand the offense. I have a hard time realizing some of these things because early in the game, like I think I went to a club when I was like 16 or 17 when I wasn't supposed to be there, and I get anxiety attacks, so I never go out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 25 years later, I don't know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
A guy slapping a girl's ass. I mean, I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it from being in school or something,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a hard time connecting to that because I never really did it myself.
Mm-hmm.
But wait. Let me not lie. One time in high school, it almost got me fucked up too, actually. This one guy, this one girl, her big brother was, I think I was in the 10th grade. Her brother was a senior and he was both a football player and a wrestler. Yeah. And he would have fucked me up too. And I was strapped up at the time in school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But no, he would have fucked me up though.
But in that disruption thing,
But I smacked her.
but
Smacked her ass,
Yeah,
and then big brother stepped in like he was supposed to.
yeah, and just like in that disruption thing, how do we hold each other accountable? Like when my cousin held me accountable when I was being disruptive in the community.
I think that's a natural. I think the way that would have happened to me was when he stepped to me, I was gonna fight. But that's a proper male accountability dynamic right there. You do that to her, then you gotta face me, and I do kind of miss that.
Yeah,
Okay,
Like I don't see that a lot.
but you know today's time is different.
But see,
Yeah.
again, but here's the question. Do they learn?
I
See,
did.
just because
I never did that shit again.
just because someone steps in and smashes your face in, do they learn?
Nope.
Okay, that's the question. Because see, the whole point of experience is the learning process.
Yes.
You always want to walk away having learned something.
Yes.
And that's where it becomes so very important that the elders take the time to sit down, explain, have conversations with the young people. What did you learn? Okay. If you know that your child got into a fight at school, are you sitting down asking them who won? And then as soon as you find out they won, you're like, good job. Or do you take the time to find out why it took place and teach them, hey, were there other options?
Yes.
Okay, at avoiding this. Why? Because now we're talking about community, okay? And so now we're talking about, and oftentimes we're talking black on black is what we're talking for the most part. Okay. So, okay, how do we dislike each other that much that every time we see each other, we hate each other and we got to jump on each other and we got to prove a point to each other. We got to let the whole world see.
I don't know. No, I don't think. Yeah, you're right.
You get my point?
Yeah, I get you.
You see what I'm saying? And guess what? What's crazy is that when those things are taking place, it's a majority of us that are holding the cameras. It's majority of us that are ugly. That's my point. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Where's the accountability? See, if we say, hey, we want violence to end, right?
Yes.
We say, hey, why don't this stuff stop? Well, when are you gonna make it stop?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? When are you gonna influence the ones that you have influence with? You may not be able to talk to everybody, but when are you gonna influence the ones that you have influence with to encourage them to stop? That's accountability.
I agree with that, but I have a fundamental issue with. Remember, we disagreed on this before in the past. I don't want violence to stop, right? Because it is a natural deterrent for other men to do negative things.
Okay. Now, see, this is the thing. Well, this is the thing. Okay. I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Since you say you don't want violence to stop, okay?
It's not gonna anyway.
Well, no, but listen to what I'm saying. Well, listen to what I'm saying. Okay. What we're talking about here is better ways. That violence doesn't always have to be physical.
Yes.
Violence can also be a debate.
Sure, yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so in other words,
Rapping is
and that's
is
a type
violence.
rapping is a form of violence.
Yeah.
Okay, now
Battle
why?
rapping.
What it is? It's a form of
Expression.
violent expression.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anger fuels that. Okay, so what I'm saying is, rather than boxing with our hands, there's nothing wrong with addressing an issue.
Remember, breakdancing was violent.
It was a type of violence even
Yeah.
back when we used to break dance. It was a type of violence, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we would just check each other.
Yeah.
Okay, you get called out.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You
Go neighbor to neighborhood.
or you get served up.
Yeah.
You see
And
what I'm
then
saying?
you got to go home and practice to come back again.
Yeah, you see what I mean? So it was a form of violence. So in that regard, I agree that violence is necessary, but the type of violence that's unnecessary is what we're talking about.
Yes.
The type of
The
violence.
type of violence that's unnecessary.
Killing each other.
Killing each other that results in a loss of life,
Yeah.
breakups of families. That type of violence is unnecessary.
Yes.
But what's necessary is that we learn to resolve issues the proper way, a better way. In other words, hey, if you disrespected my sister and I want to have a conversation with you about the disrespect to my sister, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I'm not gonna come to you and disrespect you, but I'm also gonna come to you and say, hey, that was my little sis. I feel some kind of way about that. Boom, let's talk about this. You see what I'm saying? Because I could try to beat it out of you, right?
We didn't end up fighting in that scenario, so that's the parallel that I can get that loud and clear.
Yeah.
Because he could have came over and just tried to pretzel me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? He had the
Mhm.
talent.
Right.
He was big enough. He was strong enough.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna read this last one we have.
Okay.
It says, as we saying, hold men accountable. When we know that most of these men are manipulating these young women and sexing them out when knowing that they're underage girls.
Now,
See, that's the last.
now
one.
that right there,
Yeah.
that's a no-fly zone. That's and
To be your
but
daughter.
I will say this though. I will say this. If you know they underage, yeah, you wrong. Period.
Yes.
Now, so again, communication. You know when someone's not on your level.
Yeah, you know.
You know when they're not on your level, maturity wise. You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Some people gotta get fucked up.
There's indicators there that tell you that they're too young. Even if they're lying to you about their age, you know. Okay.
Or you find out.
You find out.
Mhm.
Okay.
'Cause I had that happen
So
before.
in that regard, you know, that is the accountability. Or if someone else knows, if you know, maybe your homeboy don't know, but you know, or you found out, you tell your homeboy, hey, dude, look, she's too young.
And
Okay, leave her alone. She's underage.
Yeah, you don't high five them. And say,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
man, you got
Oh,
bad
man,
body.
you got that
Hey,
young
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
No, don't do that. See what I'm saying? There's no
Yeah.
accountability in that, and you're feeding that. You're feeding that behavior.
Yes.
I understand the fundamental dynamic there. I mean, the biological imperative is for a dude to find a girl younger so that he can procreate. But when you pervert that notion and you don't respect the social norms, that's when you gotta get fucked up.
Well,
That's when you gotta get fucked up. I've had that happen before, where I was dating a girl who said she was 25, but was really 22. I got rid of her immediately. And she was of age even after lied to at the age that she actually was. Because you can be that deceitful. Again, I don't want to incorporate you as a sum total of the top 5 people I spend my life with. Get out.
Yeah.
I guess
Sorry, gotta go.
You know, and like I said, you know, these subjects are just, you know, when we talk about healing within a family and community dynamics, you know, we're only touching mid surface of issues. You know, what I mean, there's so many core issues that we ain't really addressed. You know, but as us being aware of some of our issues, you know, it is time for us men to step up and to start to hold each other accountable, because we can't check the women, but we can check each other. and let the elderly women check the women, and let the elderly men check the men.
Well, I'll say this.
Check the one.
The only thing I, only thing
We
I'll
can
add,
coach them.
only thing I'll add to that is that most importantly, we need to check ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Own the responsibility for being who you say you are, or whoever you think you are.
Yeah.
Own that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're a man, you say you're a man, then act like a man.
Yeah.
Okay. And be responsible. Okay. And be a good role model. Be a good leader to our young men. Don't complain. Don't complain about how our young men are disrespectful, and you out here disrespecting women. You just as disrespectful as they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're the poster child for disrespect. You see what I mean? So don't be. How about be the poster child for respect, so that you have something to pass down to our young men. That's
Yeah.
what that's important.
Yeah. And we talk about inheritance. These the jewels that you give is inheritance too. You know, people think inheritance is just monetary money and that. No, it's what you pass. It's wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that from what you have and what you had encountered in your life, and you want to pass that down to your children, so then your children can pass it down to their children, and and it's going to change from each generation on what that looks like and how that operates, but they're gonna have the basic roadmap on how to get there and how to if they fall off the track, they know how to get back to it because you left a solid foundation, and that's all we trying to do. We trying to create a foundation for our community so we can start changing some of the bad behaviors, changing some of the things that we got going on. Yes, okay, we know social media it has really possessed us to the point where it became Satanified to us. The social media became Satan for us. We are possessed by it. So everything we do, we take to it. We go to it for everything, for our seance, for when we spilling spells out of our mouths on social media at each other. We create havoc towards each other on social media. Everything now is going social media. So now we can argue with somebody here in Omaha. I'd be arguing with somebody way in Timbuktu, and be sitting there and literally fighting keyboard style, and spilling hate on the website, on the web, vibrating the web, going from one city to the next city, and it's like a bus. It's making pit stops because it's stopping at every city, and every city's commenting on your dysfunction. See how that bus stop is? Remember I used to catch the bus?
Well, that's kind of like how this whole conversation started. When you're talking about, well, you know what's going on with so and so, you know what's going on. That's I think that's a perfect example of it. Those things are going on in different states.
Yeah.
And we're talking about it right here in
Oh,
Omaha.
thank you. It stopped here. So it's loading more passengers up to get involved in this bull crap. You know what I mean? So we gotta do better because we know better. But it's time for our final thoughts. You want to give your final thoughts first?
Just like I said, I think I said probably the same thing last week. I stress the importance of effective communication with one another. I think it's a great healer and promoter of strong relationships.
Yeah. You get your final thought?
Oh yeah. Shout out to my aunt Vanessa for popping in.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, I got more than a few principles, and like she was the fun aunt, which is crazy. She was a fun aunt, but she was also hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I gravitated to her for that. So one of the ones I'm for sure she gave to me is that one I said earlier, man. Anything with two legs in the mind, but someone's gonna do it, it must be. When she said that the first time to me, do you know I was like, I thought about it for like a week. It was like blew my mind. Okay, so but that shout out aside, really, man, and I think we'll probably cover something like this next week, but understand, like, you gotta know yourself, know what you are really about. I'm talking to the men. You gotta know what you are about so that you can qualify and disqualify the woman that you get with as a compliment, not as your partner, not as an equal, none of that other silly shit that they've been peddling through the media for the last 30 or 40 years. As a compliment, you're going to compliment her, so she needs to compliment you. And plug versus socket, it works together that way. So learn how to vet, then you can avoid some of these silly situations that we've been privileged to be exposed to from a firsthand um, experience. So vet better.
Yeah, and I just say, as we grow, um, we should look forward to being pillars of our community as men. Um, we got to, don't allow them to tell us what toxic masculinity is. Don't allow us to tell us that what our masculine side is. We need that, and we need our feminine side. Um, we all they the yin and the yang of us. We need to they both have to operate within our community, because there's things this time we got to denounce our masculine and use some of our feminine side so we can deal with issues a little bit differently. And then sometimes we have to use our masculine side to deal with certain things. So don't let nobody kill what is in you, what is you. And I think that's what's happening in our communities today. We're allowing an outside entity to destroy what we are built of, what we built with. It's like a battery. We got to charge that thing back up. We got to keep that battery charged so we can function. And we can't let people drain us all the way down, and then when the battery's not rechargeable anymore. And that's what's happening in our community. We're not being recharged anymore because we ain't getting fed anything. All this silly stuff we have been embarking upon and embracing. It's time, by any means necessary. It's time to change. It's time to stop. We're better than that. Like I said, when he breathed the breath of life in us, he gave us part of him. All of us is made of him. And so we have to know that. I hope that everybody looks at themselves and say, I am a child of God. And being a child of God, there comes a great responsibility and accountability. Everybody has to go through their own stage of when they develop and when they become to 100% or 99% or 80%, 75%, 72%, whatever percent of what calling that you have in your life. But just remember, you heading to that percent, and that percentage is waiting for you. That 100% is waiting for you to get there. Don't die before you get to the 100%. Don't die at 30%, 20% at your lowest point. Get to at least 75. Yeah. I'm just, so I just want to say that love, life, loyalty, we, us, and ours.
Oh, wait, before you do that, I'm doing AI art right now. I'm a career designer, so it's not just AI, it's me doing a new style. I want practice, so I'm going to do it all the way up to Halloween. If you find my personal profile, just my name, Michael Barnes.
You want to tell me about yours?
Then just leave a message on one of the latest pieces of AI art, or shoot me an inbox, and sometime in this next 3-4 weeks, I'll put it out there and tag you in the art.
Okay.
A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but the